this conversation we're going to have tonight is getting into the crossover of what rugby and football, how they're alike, how they're different. And obviously, I don't know if you know this or not, but we got a pretty well-known rugby player that signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm sure you might have heard about it. Oh, you know who the guy is? You know who he?
Well-known name in the rugby world.
Okay. Well, I've heard that they talk about how good he is, how great he was in rugby, and him making his transition now from rugby into football. Okay, and not just rugby into football. We're talking about rugby into the NFL football, right? Totally different thing. Okay, it's not college football. This is NFL. So, what do you think about that?
Well, you bring up Louis Rees-Zammit, right? Do we know who he is in the rugby world? When I say he's well known, what I mean is, for his country, he was one of the poster boys for his country's national team. He was one of the poster boys for all European rugby. Their professional leagues that lead into the national teams. And he was a poster boy for a team called the British and Irish Lions, which in the rugby world is a huge deal. Essentially, you take the island of Great Britain, Wales, England, Scotland, and then you also bring in Ireland into that, and they make the best of the best team, and they bring that together every 4 years and go play. And go on a tour and play and show and try to show people what's up, right?
Really?
So when I say he was poster boy, I literally mean on the poster, right? And then literally after the World Cup, he goes, you know what? I've reached the heights that I can in rugby because there's not much more that you can get besides winning a World Cup. Mm-hmm. Young guy jumps in and announces, hey, I want to go try to make it in the NFL, which is no easy task. Right? Switching sports, going from the best at one sport to competing against other people who are the best at their sport. There's a little bit of ego that comes with that, but then there's also a lot of hard work. You better be able to back it up. So he's definitely known, and there's excitement around that in the rugby community. There have been a couple other people that have caused that sort of excitement going the other way. NFL to rugby, Nate Ebner back in the day for the Patriots. He played football and rugby at Ohio State, played for the Patriots, and then represented USA at the Olympics. That caused some stir. But LRZ, in terms of worldwide notice, that brings it a whole different level of at least eyes to initially to NFL, and then he makes the roster. Those eyes are going to stick around, and it's going to sell a lot of jerseys in Wales. We'll say that.
Wow. Okay. So I think, in our lack of knowledge, especially me, okay, because I'm trying to learn everything about this. Like, I didn't quite know how big he was as far as the stage in itself. And you're painting a very good picture of, like, what that really means, like being the face. Newt Rockney says he's a handsome guy. He's a handsome guy, man. He's got $1 million. Yeah.
We call him marketable, right?
Yeah. He's got $1 million smile, man. He looks like a guy right out of Hollywood. Okay. And the thing is, because you said he has a confidence, right? Or ego, whatever you want to look at it. I think sometimes confidence also too, in your ability to try something new. And that's one thing I always looked at him, of just taking this chance, right? From being a star at this and saying you could fail at that, but why not try it? What's there to lose? Why not go out here and give your best and see if you can actually make it? See if you can be on the world stage with these guys. So,
absolutely, right? So he was 22 when he stepped away from rugby. He became a professional athlete at 17. And then and then became the face by 22. He's at age of a college graduate, kid coming out of college right now.
Okay.
And so if it doesn't work out in the NFL, it's not like his rugby acumen is going to go away, right? He might be a little rusty, but he'll be able to step back in with some new skill sets that he's picked up for American football.
Okay.
Ideally, I think in his mind, he wants to, make the big bucks in the NFL and have that notoriety and all that. And who wouldn't, right? Who doesn't want that? But if for some reason it doesn't work out, being a professional rugby player is not a bad backup.
So let me ask you that real quick. Okay, what is the pay range for a guy that plays on that level for what he's doing in rugby?
Nowhere near American sports. I'll say that. Like he will live extremely comfortably, top 1%, right?
Yeah,
But maybe top two, 1%. But it's not anywhere in the realm. I mean, not anywhere in the realm. We could, top, Mahomes would be able to bet him his entire salary and be okay, right? Like it's that big of a difference.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. I always wondered that because we was talking about. I know making this jump. Obviously, the monetary gain that you get from it, but as you're saying, rugby sales, right? And Newt's talking about selling jerseys. I don't know how that works as far as the commission, him getting the jersey sales, how big it is, and how much money he's actually getting from endorsements. Is there is this a big space as far as for rugby and endorsements and stuff?
In terms of the way it's set up mostly around the world, I can't speak for every single team,
Okay.
obviously, but a lot of national governing bodies own the teams, right? So let's say NBA, it's an association of teams. Owners have to, they have to meet certain requirements for the teams to be a part of that association. The way rugby works in a lot of places is, let's say, New Zealand, right? New Zealand, one of the best international rugby teams in the world, rugby countries in the world. They have their own professional league produced at the same, in terms of like production level of entertainment, same level as NFL, things like that. But they own all of the teams, right? And then they distribute the talent across it and distribute the money across it. Top guys are going to get more money than others, more money than the 18-year-old who's starting.
Right.
But it's a more even spread now. Obviously, smaller populations in a lot of these countries, so there's just simply not as many people to put money in the pot. The only place that would be anywhere close to comparable would be someplace like Japan, where their professional teams are owned by like major corporations, like Toyota owns a team, essentially infinite money. They can go out and they'll go out and pay guys like like Louis Rees-Zammit to come be on their team for a couple of years, paying them like $1 million a game, stuff like that.
Okay. Go ahead, Marcus. I'm just so intrigued, man. I'm gonna ask you a ton of questions. I hope you don't mind,
No,
man.
I cleared my night to talk to you, boys.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. Cool. All right.
Well, the one question that before we came on, I asked you just to put in perspective for a lot of our Chief fans and American listeners who aren't really familiar with LRZ coming over. Kind of compare him to what he was in rugby. Kind of compare him to that kind of guy. We talked about Devin Hester and that kind of thing, but just kind of lay that on for us, his player comp.
I'm gonna put this disclaimer out here right now. The names I'm gonna name, I'm not saying LRZ is gonna be those guys. I'm not saying that he's gonna reach those heights, but and purely from a number standpoint, height, weight, 40 time, right? So Devin Hester, I think when he entered the league was 5'11", 190, ran a 4.41 40, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian Peterson, 6'1", 6'2", 220-ish pounds, ran about the same, a 4.40 40 time. LRZ, without all the explosive training that high-level football athletes get in this country, is 6'2", 210 pounds, runs a 4.44 40. Right, so give him a year of really specific training in those positions. He's going to shave those 400ths of a second off, and he's going to have that size plus some very specific skill sets that come from being on the rugby pitch, right? And so athletically, those are some comps. I'm not saying he's going to be Devin Hester. I'm not saying he's going to be Adrian Peterson because that's too much to put on a young man to reach those greatnesses. But he's in that range in terms of athleticism to put it in the perspective for all the viewers tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to on the football field positionally, he's gonna have to find his way. There are a couple of things that he's just not going to be used to that I'm sure we'll get into later on the podcast. We've seen in the clips of blocking is not just a foreign concept to him; it's a completely new concept, right?
Right.
Route selections, things like that. You can watch it all your entire life, but until you try and do it, it's going to be hard to understand how hard something is until how hard those skill sets are until you do it yourself. And as Jason, as you said earlier, he's not just trying to do it college or rec league. He's trying to do it against the best in the world.
Right. I think that was kind of like one of my I wouldn't say pushbacks, but I wanted people to quite understand exactly the skill set that you actually have to play in the NFL. And guys that have been playing all their lives that still don't make it, that have that explosiveness and the physicality and whatnot, and it's still a hard task to do. You almost liken it to winning the lottery, making it to the NFL. I mean, and that's how hard it is. And so sometimes when we had this conversation a couple of months ago when they were talking about NBA players playing in the NFL, I'm just like, it's not that easy of a transition. It's just, look, there's certain things they can do, right? And like LRZ, and I want you to kind of go into, like you said, his skill set that makes him ready for the NFL. What in particular is his superpower, right? That you say, well, look, he's going to be very good at this as opposed to that. And you said like the blocking is a whole new concept to him, okay? And we've seen that when he was going up one-on-ones against linebackers. Like he's never done it before. And so it's one thing to do it without pads on. It's like you said, it's one thing to watch it on video. But until you actually get into the ring, until you actually get in there and feel the physicality, feel the speed of it, how to get your head up and whatnot, it is going to be a long learning process, okay? And that's not taking anything away from LRZ. It's going to be hard for a guy that's been playing for a long time. Shoot, if you played at UCLA or USC or Michigan as a running back, it's still tough. And so that was one of my cases. But go ahead and tell me a little bit about like you were talking about some of his skill set. That is,
yeah. So in rugby, his position, his specialist position in rugby, I would not say is someone who's in a lot of confrontation. Right there, he does have to pass, he does have to tackle, he does have to run, but he's not in the trenches. Right, he's not in the trenches with the big men. His skill set in the rugby field. I'm starting here for rugby to paint the picture, right? As he is the finisher, right? He is there to finish, whether it's from 5 meters out or 100 meters out. He has the size to run over top somebody, the speed to run away from somebody. So that is his skill set, and a lot of his team's game plan is to get him the ball in one-on-one scenarios in space. Right. So those are some things that, that he will excel at. Other things that are going to translate is, he might not have, as all professional athletes have good footwork, right? Like that's as a caveat, but rugby footwork is different than football footwork. Football footwork, you're going to have a lot of, start, stop, start again, really explosive, and you have to do it. Whereas rugby, it's a lot of changing direction at max velocity. Right, so it's because everything in rugby starts at a rolling start. You want every ball out in front so you can run onto it, because you don't have to wait for someone to block for you or anything like that. So a couple of those that subtle difference, give him a couple months, he'll get there. He's a professional, but that subtle difference is going to take a little bit to catch up. So when you start to think about what his superpowers are, it's going to be field vision under pressure, guys coming at him. That's what he's very much used to. In particular, they're having a running back kick, a punt and kickoff returner, because those are the areas of the game that are not most similar. That's the wrong words. The least foreign to him, right? Because there are different things in football compared to rugby, but with those things, he sees who's coming at him from the get-go. Right, in rugby, all defense, the best way to think about it is a kickoff defense. You have your lane, you stop anybody who comes into your lane. Sometimes you double tackle somebody, but you have your lane. That's all rugby defense is. Obviously, they're different schemes. That's a big simplification, but basic setup: have your lane, go forward, take up space, make the big tackle. So from running back and kick returner, at the start of the play, running back, all the defenses in front of him. Yes, there will be schemes I'm sure to put him to space or put him through a hole. He'll be able to read those much more naturally than say being a wide receiver coming across the middle, and then the poor soul has a free safety or middle linebacker coming across spearing on the line side. Right, that's a completely different skill set and awareness that very few people want in this world. I'm not even sure professional wide receivers, not many of them want to take that ball across the center, especially if it's a pass on the back shoulder or up top. But speed, vision, and being able to change that direction, change direction at top velocity are things that he'll be able to do day one on any field in any sport, because that's what he's been drilled to do since he was a child.
We've also, as far as the blocking is one aspect of it, but as far as another thing that he's even said specifically is his pad level running too high, and that's something that he's got to kind of adjust. And that's something that in rugby there's none of this running high or running low that really doesn't matter in rugby.
It matters. It's more. It comes back to that field awareness in terms of it's way more congested on the rugby field. So on a football field. So a rugby field is significantly bigger. It's noticeably bigger than a football field. So it's 100 meters by 70 meters, which I think is almost 20-25% bigger than a football field. It's bigger than a rugby field is bigger than a soccer field. So there's more space. So more room to maneuver. So it's more congested on a football field. And two, since all the defense is almost always directly in front of you, you can time when you lower your body a little bit better. Whereas if you're trying to, run down the gut or run through a seam in the line, bodies are all around you. You kind of got to be low from the get-go. And so again, that's timing thing. He's gonna have to really sort of think about adjusting his steps before going into contact. Just instead of going in looking for the seam, go in expecting contact and bounce to the seam so that you can really open up. So it's, can he read the hole? Yes. Pad height is going to be a little bit hard for him because the timing into contact. It's not just the guy coming to plug the hole, the linebacker. He's got to look out for the big paws of 300-pound linemen reaching out for him all the time. His own teammates being pushed into him, and so it's a different mindset when it comes to spacing. It would be the best way I could put it.
Okay, so I'm looking at it. So from meters, I went from so they said 109 yards in length, and in between it's like 74 yards, 74 to 76 yards. For football, it's 100 by 53 and a third. Okay, is what you're looking at for football wise, and I think that's where some of the challenges are. And I agree with you that what he does naturally is, like you said, it's a pitch. In essence, what you're saying is it's all pitching in rugby for him. That's what he's been doing well, right? And it's like as soon as you get the ball, you got to hit the hole. My nephew who was on here, he's a running back. And the guys that I know that play running back before, in the NFL, the hole breathes, okay? And so when I say the hole breathes, there's a rhythm to like how the holes open up. So when the blocking scheme looks like when you draw it up on paper, it's like, oh, okay, you just run here to the A or B gap or the 3, and then it's going to be fine. But like you said, with the blocking scheme, how bodies move, the hole may actually jump over a couple of gaps, right? And this is something, like you said, the vision that he has to have. And like you said, he has the speed, he has vision, but football vision is a whole different thing, okay? Because sometimes with the zone scheme, what we run in Kansas City, you got to look for the cutback. Sometimes the cutback's got to be open. So even if you're trying to run to space, that space might close up real fast because these guys close in, linebackers, safeties, when they come down in the hole, they may run a stunt with the inside guy that might close up that hole. I love what you said, though, is if you come in expecting contact but run with some power, I think you'll be fine. And I watched this video on John Riggins, okay? John Riggins was a bigger guy, okay? Tall guy from Kansas, 230-something pounds. But the way he was able to run, he ran with a whole lot of power. But one thing he said that stood out more than anything else as a running back, the quality you have to have is your eyes. It's eyes and anticipation, okay? It's anticipating what guys are going to be, right? So even in the essence of the blocking scheme, you still got to have a knack and innate ability to find everybody around you. It's a spatial awareness, right? If you will, it's spatial awareness. Where in rugby, where you do have a little bit more space, you know, you can kind of run to open grass, and you kind of see that.
Yeah. I think it's a fundamental difference on how holes are created in the two sports, right? So
There you go. Okay.
So football, you have blocking schemes. You literally create the holes with force. And sometimes they collapse and you get some spectacular plays. Reverse and back around. Awesome. Those are always spectacular. But I bet from a coaching perspective, someone's pissed on the coach if that happens, on the coaching staff if that happens, right? If you're supposed to run away, running back has to reverse field unexpectedly, something went wrong that you're gonna have to work on. But you're trying in football to create those seams and small holes, instantly go through with force. Rugby, you create holes by misdirection, right? And there's always that opportunity for the extra pass, right? You hear that a lot if you start to watch rugby. You'll hear that a lot. Make the extra pass, that extra pitch, which is gonna give somebody caution before coming in with an immense amount the same velocity that an NFL linebacker or any defender is gonna come in with, because that you come with velocity. Yeah, you might kill me, but that ball's away already, and my teammates running off my hip, ready to go. So that's one thing. And then everything in rugby is one-on-one, right? There are 15 guys on the field. Everybody's expected to make that tackle. Everybody's expected to be able to run. So it's not, you say you're running through traffic, but really it's a one-on-one tackle almost every single time in rugby, or at least the initial contact is one-on-one. And in football, you tuck that ball and you go. It could be 1-on-4, and you just hope that you can bounce that first person into the next two and then run away from them, right? Or the blocking scheme goes exactly the plan, and you get an Adrian Peterson type run from back in the day where everything just opened up for him and he gets out and runs, looks and was spectacular. So it's just a fundamental difference on how those holes are being. So that mindset, I think, for LRZ is he's waiting for the bodies to move before he makes his run, instead of just being up on the person who's going to move the body for him so he can go immediately through. I think I said that correctly, but he's waiting for the hole to present itself instead of being right on the person who's going to create the hole for him so he can step through and explode through the instant that it's opening, not after it's open, but the instant that it's opening.
Yeah. We always tell running backs, get to the second level, and then it's one-on-one. So it's really the challenge goes into like understand the blocking schemes, getting open, seeing a hole, getting through it, and then you have the one-on-one that you're talking about in rugby, right? So it's like all you have to do is make one guy miss. You hear it all the time in running back rooms. I used to hear it all the time in the blocking scheme when I'm blocking for running backs is let me get my man, but also too, sometimes, like you said, the scheme doesn't work out like that. And coach is yelling at guys. I'm just like, well, look, we got to make adjustments on our blocking as well, because the defense is scheming what you're doing offensively too, right? If we know what a guy's skill set is, if I know that LRZ is a guy that is good in the pitch, then my job as a defensive coordinator is stop what he does well, right? Stop what he does well. Get out there, spill to the outside, make him run back inside, whatever it is, make him change direction so he's not effective, right? And that's just how that's how you scheme guys on that. My thing is, okay, and I know, Marcus, I'm going to let you jump back in this, but as a special teams coach, go back to this, what you were talking about. His ability to go down and see spaces. And I put this, I retweeted this video. I don't know if, Marcus, you have that or not, about covering a punt, okay? And he came down to one of our fastest guys on the team, McCole Hardman, who was just a speedster. He's an absolute jet, road runner. And LRZ, when they kicked the ball, they kicked it directionally to the left, okay? He goes down to the left as he was a personal protector. That's what he was doing. He's personal protector, blocks, then goes down, okay? He's almost like the last line of defense before you get to the punter. He changes direction okay, and you'll see it here. He's changing direction, and the way he comes back on the screen shows his speed. And when I'm telling you, as a special teams coach, when this jumped out at me, I'm like, whoa. Like when he starts, okay, go back to it, Marcus. Can you make that bigger? So you see him start over here to the left, coach, right? You see him, he's number 9. Starts to the left, right? He's almost down in the corner. It's 20 yards away from McCole Hardman. Now we're setting up a block, and this is blocking I see right here for the return is a return left. So McCole Hardman's coming here. LRZ has already tracked him down from the other side. This is, look, I know he's fast, but this is something else that's exceptional, really. I mean, he sees the hole where Hardman's going to be. He's anticipating making his tackle.
So that, I mean, if I'm being honest, that anticipation at the level that he was playing at, is what is expected, right? Tracking somebody across in traffic to force them in the direction. So since everything is a one-on-one tackle in rugby, and there's not blocking, right?
Yes.
We talk a lot about shepherding or forcing someone to go where you want them to go, right? He's probably, well, not probably. I watched videos of LRZ. He's right side dominant, so that means his right shoulder and his right leg, his right arm are going to be stronger. When he makes tackles, he's going to prefer to tackle on his right shoulder, right? So fast guy comes across. He's very LRZ from a defensive standpoint. Rugby is going to be very used to seeing where they're coming and going to where that space is, because if he were to have the ball in his hand, that's the space that he would run to. This guy's probably faster over 40 or 100 because he looks really, really fast.
Yeah.
But angles and spatial IQ can win you the day in a broken field play like a kickoff return.
Coach, this is what we talk about, filtering through the trash, okay? On football terms. And that's why I would always tell guys, you got to filter through the trash to make a tackle. And so this is a huge weapon to stop a guy like this, McCole Hardman. And he sees it. Like that spatial awareness, like you said, tracking him down. Man, he's, oh my gosh. Like this is like when I'm telling you, a guy that is perfect, who can make a Pro Bowl, is guys that did things like this. Okay, we had a guy named Gary Steels on our team at the time who would go down and make tackles. But this of, like you said, the anticipation of where he's going to be, because he sees it in his head, like this is where he's thinking about going. LRZ sees it, man, and he could deplete McCole Hardman on this, right? It's not a live; they're just tagging off right here, and he just basically loads like I tagged off. Look, he just tags him off. He slows down, man. I'm telling you, Coach, this right here to me I was like, whoa. And I could not believe, look where he's at. Like he's off the screen. And immediately he just shows up. Look at that. That's phenomenal. Go ahead.
Where he would struggle in this scenario would be, okay, he does that here, people see it. Maybe if he makes the roster or in a preseason game, he does it once or twice in a preseason game, somebody's coming back to kill him. That now people are looking to block him, which is just a different aspect that he's gonna have to get used to. I'm sure he's getting it at camp. But just like you said, these are the best these guys are the best in the world. Stop somebody, stop what they're good at. Right now, where it gets fun, and from a rugby standpoint, like the dream of probably every rugby coach ever is like putting some of those rugby specific skill sets, into football. So if you were to flip the scenario and put LRZ and what's the returner's name again? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the roster. Right now?
That's McCole Hardman.
Hardman. So put LRZ catching that ball instead of sending Hartman to come back and block for him. They both run left. With him. LRZ goes to the same hole Hartman does. and then Hartman just works to the outside, and then there's a pitch. That's a very basic 2-on-1 pass in a rugby sense, where defense is collapsing in on you. There's space outside. That pitch will be on the money from 15 yards away at pace if there's somebody there to receive it. Like that's the
Wow.
rugby mindset of a on kickoffs, because it's the thing that is most similar to rugby of in broken play. And just exciting things can happen there.
So this is what I'm gonna say about this, and somebody made a point about it. Forget like running back, like that's something he'll develop. Okay, we're gonna give him time to develop that skill set. This right here, he can get a roster spot by doing something as great as this alone. Okay, because you always need a guy like this, and I'm gonna tell you why, Coach. This play, he put him at personal protector, so you don't actually have a guy that's going to block him. That's the reason Toad put him back there, a personal protector, because he could the personal protector could kind of run freely to where he's going to be, right? And so you see where the guys that's on the line of scrimmage, you usually have a body on the body, and guys, I know the blocking scheme is you stay with your man the entire way, okay, or you set him up to say, hey, we're going to kick it to the left, but we're going to return right. So it is that kind of come block back. But the personal protector, what he's playing right here on this, is a free guy. Okay, he's a free hitter. All right, which is that'd be the best place for him to be. Either that or gunner. Somebody said it on here too, gunner, right? Because he could be a headhunter with his speed on the outside and his power. He could go down and just make this tackle off either the fair catch or off the initial punt, be the first one down there to go make this play. That's value right there. That right there is value. Okay. So I know we're talking about him being, a running back, and that's good. We could put him back there. He may be the fourth guy, right? If something happens, Pacheco, CH goes out, then okay, he comes in. But on special teams, you need a special guy to play this team right here. It's a cornerstone of what you do. There's three phases to the game of football: offense, defense, and special teams. And every single three of those are so important to what you do to win. LRZ can be a star in special teams, no doubt about it. So, but Coach, I like your perspective. I see how you're looking at this too. But I'm starting to see, like you said, kind of the spatial awareness, because I didn't really thinking, when you have him at personal protector, let him be the free hitter and just let him go play, filter through the garbage, and let him go hit. So I like
that's
that.
something he's done since he was probably like 8 years old when he started playing rugby. It's just one of those things where, in the positions that he plays, is the expectation for the position that he played in rugby, right? So this kind of stuff is very, very natural to him. Being that last defender, not letting anybody get to the outside, reading that space and closing down in a broken play scenario like a kickoff is.
Okay, so I'm hearing right here, okay, in the chat, people are saying he can't block.
Yes.
He said he can't block. He said, man, look, will he be compromised, as far as a blocker? Because in special teams, he'll have to be a blocker, on the receiving end, if he's not the guy that's receiving the football. If he's not the returner, he'll have to be a blocker. And really, I think if you just stay in the guy's hip, because sometimes you got guys out there who are DBs, they don't know how to block. I'm sorry, everybody's not a blocker. They just not, okay? That's football. We know DBs don't do that, okay? They're pretty boys. They got the towel all the way down to the ankles. They not try to hit anybody. Sometimes just getting in the guy's way, I think, is gonna be something good. So go ahead. What do you think about the blocking aspect?
Yeah. I think in the pocket he's gonna struggle, where someone's coming downhill at him, hard through the line. He's not quite sure what's coming, because it's gonna take him some time to be able to read defensive schemes coming, right? You have to protect the edge, you have to protect down the middle, whatever the scheme may be. He's gonna struggle there. Not saying he's not strong enough to do it, but I think there'll be a lot of penalties early on for holding just because he's not used to the positioning, right?
Yes.
You know, he's big and strong. There's no question about that. It's just a matter of stepping into the position that he needs to be a little late because he's still learning it. Now, in the open field, like you said, he's big enough just to run on the guy's hip. Someone comes running at you, well, just tackle that guy first before he tackles your guy, right?
Yeah.
It's lower your head and go. I'm no football expert at all, like not even close. But it's just they're I feel like they're two different skill sets of blocking. One is going to be very technical with everything collapsing in around you. One is going to be, okay, let's get up in the open field. That guy's going to attack you. I'm going to go murder that guy. Here we go. Follow me. It's two different mentalities surrounding it. Will he get there? Yeah. Like I've said it a couple times, he's a professional. He's been a professional for a long time. That's probably one of the biggest advantages that he has over other rookies coming in, is he knows what it means to be a professional. He knows what it means to be in front of the camera. He knows what it means to be, to represent your ball club, with pride, and the media training and things like that. Guys still slip up from time to time. He's a young guy, but he has all of that. The lights are not going to be too bright. I mean, we're talking, he played, in the World Cup. It's the third or fourth most watched sporting event in the world, right? Every 4 years, it happens. It's a huge event. And he performs under those lights all the time. So the lights aren't going to be too bright. I think it's literally just he has to be the professional that he is and really study on the playbook and drill the fundamentals in his free time.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.